A grueling run of successive events in a 4-week period continues, with the third event of the 2018 World Championship campaign, X-Trial Toulouse. After last weekend's visit to Montpellier, the riders have only had the shortest of trips in the calendar, but little time to recover from a physically demanding second round. Last time out, the X-Trial World Championship moved 700 kilometres southeast from Round 1 venue Vendée to the Sud de France Arena for the discipline's first ever visit to Montpellier. And the night was once again full of surprises right from the opening round. Vendée runner-up Jaime Busto clattered to a shock elimination with 3 failed sections in the last 4, finishing bottom of the pile and dropping to 4th in the championship standings in the process. Busto was joined on the sidelines for the second round by Takehisa Fujinami and Alexander Ferrer. 19-year-old X-Trial debutant Mikel Gelabert impressively progressing at their expense. The youngster fell 5 marks short of the final but earned an automatic qualification position for Toulouse after getting the better of Gironi Fajardo for 5th. The Gas rider was the only competitor to fail 3 sections in the second round of heats. Benoit Bincaz came close to securing his first X-Trial podium after a brilliant performance in Section 2, becoming the first rider to successfully progress through the hazard. He eventually failed a total of 3 round 2 sections, but did enough to take 4th. James Dable fought back from failures in the opening 2 sections to snatch 3rd position from the Frenchman by just 2 marks. Crucially, a mere 3-mark score in Section 5 gave him the advantage, his first podium finish since 2010. Adam Raga was the top performer in the second round of heats, but failed to capitalise on the advantage of his seeding position after a failure in Section 2 left him 4 marks behind main rival Toni Bou. The reigning world champion dropped just a single mark on the same section and conceded just 2 further marks in the remainder of the lap, going on to a 5-mark win for a second consecutive round. A 3rd career podium for James Dable was well-earned consolation for only narrowly missing out on a place in the final, when Toni Bou took his 54th career victory and 9th in succession. As the only rider in the final in both rounds of the season so far, Toni Bou has opened a 13-point championship lead behind the lead duo, 4 riders separated by just 5 points. The battle for 3rd in the overall standings. With the inclusion of Jack Price in Toulouse and Strasbourg, the X-Trial World Championship will have 2 British representatives for the first time since 2015. For James Dable, it's an opportunity to pass on knowledge that was handed down to him in his debut season in 2006, while for Price, it's a unique opportunity to join the best riders in the world.
To debut in my first World Championship is a massive thing. It's a thing that we've worked towards for years and years and years, and obviously I'm really happy to be here. From the youths up to the adults, it's every day working towards this. The new generation is a bit more prompt this year with good results from the likes of Mikel Gelabert and Benoit Bincaz. Obviously, hopefully, we're going to take over at some point.
When I started getting into the adults, I kind of lost touch a little bit with the youth scene, and then I said to myself, okay, we need to start watching it a little bit again. I suppose I just want to kind of inspire the young generation of British riders, you know, like Dougie did for me, for example. You know, Dougie was the sole UK rider in the indoors when I came to them, so yeah, it's always nice to have another Brit here. It's always nice to, you know, hear a friendly voice and everything, but hopefully it can carry on, and when I'm old enough and I retire, that, you know, him or, you know, maybe some other riders can take over from me and I can enjoy to watch them.
Worked up to James when I moved up into the adults, and he was the champion. That's what you work towards. We've lived together for quite a while out in Spain and just trained together every day, but most of all, we're still good friends and working together to achieve our best results, really. It's the best 9 riders in the world, so nothing to lose, and we'll just do our best and see where we're at.
It's not easy. I've been in that position myself. You just have to keep working hard, and hopefully one day, you know, you're doing enough to kind of make in what we call the big boy class. So to be honest, it's just about the level of commitment to the sport, how hard you're training, and you know, you can see the old guys are still at the top, so we'll see what happens, but I'm sure the old boys will keep fighting until the last moment, and we'll decide when enough's enough.
The Toulouse indoor trial has a history dating back to the 1980s and is the first of 3 classic venues in the 2018 calendar that also hosted a round in the very first World Championship campaign back in 1993. The 2018 edition is the 8th such staging in Toulouse, the most recent having seen Toni Bou make his X-Trial debut back in 2005. An historic venue and one in which only 4 of the current crop of riders have participated as a scoring round for the World Championship Series.
Une course qui va débuter par un parcours pilote par pilote.
After defeat at the hands of Mikel Jalabert in Montpellier, Gironi Fajardo received the promoter's wildcard nomination for his 3rd X-Trial appearance of the campaign, but was left with the unfavourable first starting position. With 4 failed sections, most critically section 3, he was unable to progress to the second round. Jack Price put in a strong start to his first lap in the X-Trial World Championship, but he also bowed out from the opening heat. 3 consecutive failures finished the Brits' challenge, 2 marks down on Gironi Fajardo in 9th and last position. Takehisa Fujinami's hopes of progression to Strasbourg as an automatic qualifier took a hit with successive fiascos on the opening lap, but becoming the first rider clean through section 3 helped him to move in front of both Fajardo and Price. Each of the riders eliminated in round 1 failed 4 sections, while the worst of the qualifiers failed just 2, creating a significant gulf between those who qualified and those who dropped out. Mikel Jalabert became the first rider to complete section 1 and progressed on 14 marks, while Benoit Bincaz went 1 mark better as the first rider to complete section 6 to secure his place in round 2 for the 3rd time this season. Jaime Busto had another difficult round 1, reminiscent of his struggles in Montpellier, and he was forced to become the first rider through section 5 to secure his place in the second phase, also impressing in section 6 to counteract his 2 earlier failed sections. James Dable, by contrast, was unable to recover after he also failed sections 2 and 4, with 2 further fiascos leaving him on 23 marks, 2 down on Takehisa Fujinami, the Japanese rider qualifying at his expense. But there were no further surprises on the opening lap, consistency proving key for both Adam Raga and Toni Bou as they progressed in routine fashion. Raga got off to a slower start to the lap than Mikel Jalabert, but eventually finished 3 marks up on his fellow countryman to move provisional leader. That position proved short-lived. Toni Bou bettered Raga in 3 of the first 4 sections to build a 3-mark lead and qualify to the second round as top seeds. For the second time in 2018, a podium finisher fails to make it past the first round in the subsequent event as James Dable bows out in round 1. The other eliminees, Gironi Fajardo and Jack Price, from Heat 1. So 2 heats of 3 riders, and once again in this new format of the X-Trial World Championship, 1 rider from each heat will progress to tonight's grand final. It's the 3rd round of the 2018 campaign here in Toulouse, and it's seen Takehisa Fujinami move through to the second round for the first time this season. The veteran Japanese rider getting us underway with heat number 1 in section 1. 6 minutes for the riders to make it through the sections, accruing as few penalty marks as possible as they make it through. Fujinami, representing the Montesa Honda team, making his 133rd X-Trial appearance here tonight. Good start on the opening step, making up to the very top of the section now. This is where it starts to get a little bit more tricky. The riders having to make it through another couple of steps before they can get out of section number 1. Takehisa Fujinami, who finished just 8th in Montpellier, his worst result since 2014, and section 1's got off to a bad start because on the landing, Fujinami goes straight on and off the side of the section to a 5-mark score. He moves straight on then to section number 2. The cotton reels once again, and once again down straight away to a 5. He went straight into that section. He's missed the opening step, so 10 marks out of a possible 10 on the opening 2 sections for Takehisa Fujinami. Now, Fuji has been granted nomination positions in successive events, but he's not included in the nominations for Strasbourg, so if he wants to compete next week, he needs to make it through as the automatic qualifier. The best of the event riders, the 2 remaining event riders, Fujinami and Jalabert, in this second round of heats. Section number 3. So far, so good for Fujinami. He's dropped 1 mark there for leaning, but he continues to progress through the spindles, down the other side, and another series of spindles now awaits him in this 3rd section of the lap. Round 2 sections in reverse order to what the riders tackled in round number 1, so completely new for all of these riders, and Fujinami therefore has the disadvantage of being the first rider out through them as he bids to add to his 35 career X-Trial podiums. That's going to be another mark for leaning there, so it's 2 in total on section number 3 for Takehisa Fujinami. A mean step late on in that section. And that sees Takehisa Fujinami now on to 12 marks from the 3 sections completed so far as he moves on to section number 4. On paper, this should be one of the easier sections of the lap. We saw in the opening round that some of them were extremely difficult, and we expect the level of difficulty to be at its highest in Toulouse here tonight. Takehisa Fujinami for section number 4 makes it up to the section's high point, but he drops a mark for leaning at the top of the section. Tough to make it over that without using the base plate on the engine, and Takehisa Fujinami has dropped a single mark there in section number 4. He now moves on to section 5. 13 marks his tally so far. Obviously has no idea as yet what kind of total will be needed. He drops 2 marks on the entrance to the section on the first step there, with the 2 remaining riders in heat number 1 still to come. Benoit Bincaz and Adam Raga will join Fujinami in this heat. Jaime Busto, Mikel Jalabert and Toni Bou lining up in heat 2. So far so good for Takehisa Fujinami in section 5. He's not got a lot to play with, having dropped a couple of marks early on in the section, and he's off the side of the section. In the latter stages, he'd made it through the majority of the section well, but clatters down to a 5 later on. So that's 3 fiascos on this lap so far for Takehisa Fujinami, who comes into section 6 needing a result here, but he's down to another 5. So it's a total of 4 failed sections in round number 2. Heat 1 for Takehisa Fujinami finishes on a total of 23 marks. And as I said, remains to be seen whether that will be enough for him to make further progression in the competition. Benoit Bincaz and Adam Raga next up. The most galling of his fails, section number 2 for Fujinami. A couple of marks dropped in sections 3 and 4. And aside from that, it was failures in each of the 4 other sections. Now we move on to Benoit Bincaz, the home representative from France, making it up the initial step on section number 1. Takehisa Fujinami failed this section, remember, but it wasn't until the drop down from the first few elements which the Japanese rider made it through successfully. Bincaz is doing the same. Minder scurrying away as he jumps to the top of the section. Now Bincaz, the Scorpa representative, needs to make it down the other side, and he's doing so very nicely indeed. 1 mark drop for leaning, but he's taking a jump. So he's taking a leap approach here, Benoit Bincaz, and it's working out for him. He's dropped a mark on each of the 2 landings, but it's only 2 marks in section 1. And Benoit Bincaz, the 21-year-old, the lone home representative here tonight, moving 3 marks above where Takehisa Fujinami was at the same stage. Fujinami dropping 5 marks in section 1, Bincaz with just 2, now has the advantage. Into section number 2. Fujinami, remember, failed right on the first step. Bincaz has already made it further than him. The biggest challenge of this section is still to come. The riders have to drop down and then make it up this step with the shortest of run-ups you can imagine. Bincaz building himself up for it, Minder waiting at the top, but he catches the front wheel right in the section and drops back down to a 5-mark score. Nonetheless, Fujinami recorded the same total, and Bincaz still has the advantage as things stand. 7 marks for Benoit Bincaz, 23, remember, is the tally that Takehisa Fujinami finished on. Section number 3. Fujinami scored 2 marks in this one, so Bincaz aiming to match him here. Benoit Bincaz, impressive so far in his first X-Trial World Championship season, making the second round of heats in each of the 3 rounds so far this campaign. A single drop mark there, just for a dab to steady himself at the top of that spindle. Only a couple of inches wide, the tops of those spindles, so a challenge for the riders here. But this is the big step of the section, and this is where Takehisa Fujinami dropped his second mark in section 3. Benoit Bincaz does the same, concedes a mark for leaning, but finishes the section on 2. So that's 9 marks from the opening 3 then for the Frenchman, and he's still on target to get the better of Fujinami, with only 1 rider making it through from each heat. That is critical. And if the Frenchman completes this section number 4, he will guarantee his place above Takehisa Fujinami in the standings, and therefore remain in contention to progress from heat number 1. This is the main step of the section. Takehisa Fujinami dropped a single mark for leaning at the top of it. Bincaz can afford to do the same and still progress. And he makes it up to the top of the section. He does indeed, as you can see from the onboard camera with the minder, concede a single mark for leaning. Had to stop on the sump at the top of the section, but that is enough to ensure that Takehisa Fujinami is eliminated here this evening, and Benoit Bincaz remains in contention for progression. So Benoit Bincaz moving on to 10 marks from 4 sections. He's going to drop a couple of marks on the entrance to this one, section number 5. Fujinami did the same. Bincaz progressing through. He's been given 3 marks on observation, and you can probably tell because the crowd here in Toulouse are none too pleased about that. The home representative continuing to progress in section 5. Anything he does here in the remainder of this lap is a bonus and will aid him in his fight with Adam Raga, who is next out. Bincaz at the moment doesn't know what Raga's going to be able to do through these sections. All new, as I said previously, for this second round of heats. Bincaz dropping down and drops another mark, and it's all over. Well, he was already on 3 marks from the opening step, so there was no more room for error. And with a foot dropped in the latter stages of the section, in fact in the same place that Fujinami failed, that was enough to see Benoit Bincaz down to a 5. So on 15 marks now from 5 sections, 3 of them completed successfully. Section number 6 that Takehisa Fujinami failed. Benoit Bincaz is trying a slightly different approach, using a couple of dabs to haul himself to the top. He's already used 2. He's got to get the bike up, but it's slipping backwards. And I would suggest that that is game over for Benoit Bincaz. A 5-mark score in section 6. So none of the riders as yet have made it out of sections 2, 5 or 6. But Benoit Bincaz takes the advantage in heat number 1 thanks to a mere 2-mark score in the opening section. Adam Raga lining up here for section number 3. His tallies in the first 2 sections having identically matched Benoit Bincaz. So 7 marks from 2 so far for Adam Raga. Bidding to move above the Frenchman in the standings and confirm his progression from heat number 1. That was nicely done on the back wheel from the 4 times world champion. The second set of spindles. Benoit Bincaz dropped a mark at the top of this step. Adam Raga aiming to avoid doing the same, but he hasn't been able to do so. So a mark dropped by Adam Raga there, and he's still got the main step of this section to come, where each of the 2 riders to tackle it so far have dropped a second mark. Adam Raga, though, is up without dropping a mark for leaning, and that will give him an advantage in that one, section 3. Fujinami and Bincaz had both dropped a 2-mark score there. Adam Raga with just a single mark in that one, section 3. So if Adam now matches Fujinami and Benoit Bincaz with a single mark in this section, or indeed records a clean, that will be enough for him to confirm his place in tonight's final, because both Fujinami and Bincaz dropped 2 fiascos in the 2 final sections. Adam Raga with an opportunity to seal his progression here in section number 4. He can afford to take a dab at the top of the section if he needs to. He has indeed dropped a mark for leaning. In fact, you could hear the sump clattering into the top of the section. Tough one there, but a single mark score is enough for Adam Raga to move through successfully. The remaining 2 sections then just about completing the lap on as strong a tally as possible. He drops to a 5-mark score right at the start of section number 5. The third rider to fail that one, just as he did in section number 2. On now to section 6 for Adam Raga. The importance of his points total now is simply to determine his seeding position for the grand final, whether he will end up starting first or second in the final. The aim being to go out second in the final, with new sections to be tackled in the final stage. Nice work from Adam Raga to make it up that opening staircase. Both Takehisa Fujinami and Benoit Bincaz were caught out there and dropped down to 5-mark scores. Raga's got a decent amount of time to try and tackle this section 6. It's one of the longer ones of the night. The hardest part of it, arguably, already completed by Raga, after Fujinami and Bincaz both failed on the opening to section number 6. A series of ramps on this section, almost 8 metres above the arena floor. A vertiginous section, this one, but Adam Raga is making it through well. Section number 6 for Adam Raga, the 4-times world champion, making his 120th X-Trial appearance here tonight. And he looks set to become the first rider to make it successfully out of section number 6. Takehisa Fujinami and Benoit Bincaz both failed here, but Adam Raga is through with a 1-mark score in section 6 to give himself an emphatic advantage in heat number 1. Raga finishes on 15. He dumps out Benoit Bincaz and Takehisa Fujinami. The Frenchman may well still have hopes of a place on the podium. Fujinami won't. He is eliminated, and his battle is to see if he can get the better of Mikel Gelabert, who is due to line up here in heat number 2. The results then of heat 1, Adam Raga finishing on 15, Benoit Bincaz on 20, and Takehisa Fujinami on 23. Heat 2 featuring Jaime Busto, Mikel Gelabert and Toni Bou. It's an all-Spanish second heat. Second round here in the third event of the campaign in Toulouse. Jaime Busto first up onto the section. Promising start to section number 1. This one completed successfully by both Benoit Bincaz and Adam Raga. Point starter fresh now for the second heat, with the top performer in this one moving through. 20-year-old from the Basque Country in Spain, making his 9th X-Trial appearance here tonight. Jaime Busto in his first season as a full-time World Championship rider. This is the stage of the section that caught out Takehisa Fujinami. Just slipped off the side of the section here. Busto's dropped a 1 mark. He's taken the same approach as Benoit Bincaz, leaping across. And does the same again, but this time makes the decision to drop down. So that's going to give him an extra step to tackle. Bincaz did it all on the back wheel, leaping from one step to the other. Busto has made the decision to drop down. Plenty of configurations of this section, giving the riders options. Always interesting to see different approaches being taken. But Busto has picked up a failure in section number 1. Now that could prove costly, because it was only in section 1 that Benoit Bincaz was able to move above Takehisa Fujinami in the opening heat. We'll see if indeed section 1 proves critical for Jaime Busto later on in the lap as he embarks on section 2. Frustrating for him because he was looking good in terms of completing the section. He'd just accrued too many marks, any more than 3 dropped penalty marks, and it's an instant failure in the section. Busto so far so good in section 2, but none of the 3 riders have been able to complete this one so far, mainly because of this step, where Benoit Bincaz got well and truly caught in it. Adam Raga also failing on this section. Jaime Busto then, the 4th rider to tackle the main step of section number 2. He's right on the edge of the section, tries to force himself up, but it proves impossible for him in the end. Section 2, and it's a 2nd consecutive failure for Jaime Busto, who's got his work cut out now here this evening, as he aims to recover from his worst ever X-Trial performance last time out in Montpellier. 9th and last, with 3 failures in the last 4 sections of the first lap on that occasion. Section 3, Adam Raga got out of this one with a 1 mark. Fujinami and Bincaz both dropped 2. The first of those 2 marks being dropped at this stage on the spindles, but Jaime Busto has done it beautifully. Very nice work indeed. Precision there from the Spaniard, but he's going to drop a mark for leaning there. In fact, it's 3 marks he's been given in section number 3 as he slipped back each time he tried to haul his weight forward. Jaime Busto then on 13 marks from the 3 sections completed so far, embarks on section 4. This the main step of it for the 2 times X-Trial of Nations winner, Jaime Busto. He does it on the back wheel. No rider as yet has been clean, but Busto looks set to become the first, and he does so. Clattering into the advertising boards after the section, but Jaime Busto gains back a mark there on section number 4. So moving on now to section 5. He needs to get through at least one of these 2 remaining sections to have a hope of bettering the tally of Benoit Bincaz. He's dropped a couple of marks there right on the entrance to the section. 3 marks given to him once again. Jaime Busto making it to the top of this one, section number 5. When he uses a mark for leaning, we've seen on this lap, Busto has a tendency to slip back a couple of times before he forces himself away from the sump, and that's what's costing him. But we've seen riders drop marks in the latter stages of this section, and Busto slips off the side of the section altogether. He knew he had no room for error whatsoever, having already dropped 3 marks, and ends up dropping down to a 5. So section number 6 is now crucial for Busto. He must complete this one with a maximum of 1 drop mark to move above Bincaz in the standings, but he's already failed right on the entrance to the section. It's a 5-mark score for Jaime Busto. He finishes the lap on 23 and with a poorer time than Takehisa Fujinami. So if Busto doesn't manage to make it through from this one, heat number 2, he will finish behind both Benoit Bincaz and Takehisa Fujinami in the classification. So far from ideal lap for him. 4 5-mark scores, and critically a 3-mark tally in section number 3. Now moving on to Mikel Jalabert with that 23-mark total to try and beat to remain in contention for progression from this heat number 2. Not a great start for Mikel Jalabert. Dropped a mark for leaning and then had to take a dab as well to continue his progression through this section number 1. Little room for error from here on in for Mikel Jalabert, the youngest competitor in the field at 19 years of age, one of 5 Spanish riders who started tonight's lineup, and one of 3 in this one, heat number 2. Made the decision to drop down from the section there. That's going to give him a couple of steps to do, which will be far from easy. Jalabert making it look easy, though. That was some nice work on the back wheel from Mikel Jalabert, who is out of section 1 successfully. 3 marks dropped. There was no further room for error, but he's made it through nicely. Mikel Jalabert, the 2016 European champion, already has a 2-mark advantage over Jaime Busto in section number 1. Now on to section 2. This one has been failed consecutively by each of the 4 riders to tackle it so far. What can Mikel Jalabert do differently here? First of 2 main steps, completed successfully, but that first step has a great deal more run up to it than this second one. The top of that cotton reel, barely the length of the bike. Not much room to pull back and try something special for Mikel Jalabert. 4 riders have failed this one, section number 2. Mikel Jalabert in his second X-Trial appearance. He's made it onto the step. He's made it up the step with a single drop mark for leaning. Mikel Jalabert, the first to make it across that step and the first to make it out of section number 2. 4 drop marks from the first 2 sections. That's the best of anyone so far. Mikel Jalabert bidding for a place in the grand final for the first time, bidding for a first ever X-Trial podium after his exploits in Montpellier, where he was superb with 5th position, has got off to a great start to this lap thanks to that single mark score in section number 2. Now on to section 3, a little bit out of sorts there from Jalabert. Big moment for him in this section. Successful completion here would guarantee his place above Takehisa Fujinami in the overall standings. And that would mean, as best event rider, he would be an automatic qualifier to Strasbourg. He's had to take a couple of marks there. Again, a little bit scrappy in this one, section number 3. I said it was a big moment for him. And he makes it up the step without dropping a mark for leaning, so he does complete section number 3. And that's it. That is enough to ensure that Mikel Jalabert moves through to Strasbourg next week at the expense of Takehisa Fujinami. Twice in a row, Mikel Jalabert has made it through as automatic qualifier to prolong his X-Trial World Championship season. Very impressive in his debut campaign at this level. Now on to section number 4. Anything better than a 3-mark tally here, or indeed in any of the remaining sections, will secure his place above Benoit Bincaz and grant him a first extra podium position guaranteed. So the pressure is on Mikel Jalabert for a place on the podium, available right from this one, section number 4. Step has cost 3 of the riders a single mark so far. Jaime Busto showed how it was done on the back wheel. Jalabert does the same. Oh, but falls the other side, and a dramatic collision with the section, and a 5-mark score in section 4. And his hard work in section 2 to gain an advantage may well have been undone there in section 4. Because if Jalabert clatters down to a 5-mark score in the 2 remaining sections, he will drop behind Benoit Bincaz in the overall classification. Bincaz on 20 is the man to beat, remember. Nice work on the opening step to section 5, a single drop mark for Jalabert. It's later in the section that the 4 riders have each failed so far in this second round of heats. Jalabert misjudges the descent, and down he comes off the back of the section. Another bruising fall for him, and that leaves him under a great deal of pressure now coming into section number 6. He's not got a huge amount of time. Remember, 6 minutes to complete the 6 sections consecutively, ticking away, and less than 50 seconds now. Adam Raga made it through section 6. Jalabert now needs to do the same to move above Benoit Bincaz in the classification. Jalabert on 17. Benoit Bincaz finished the lap on 20 and was good on time, so Jalabert only has a couple of marks to play with here. And he's dropped a mark already, and now he drops to a 5. And that result is enough to guarantee Benoit Bincaz a place on the podium here this evening. Mikel Jalabert scores 22. Unless Toni Bou has a disaster next time out, that looks unlikely to be enough for him to progress. He gets the better of Jaime Busto, though, in heat number 2, and Takehisa Fujinami also drops behind him in the standings overall. Toni Bou here lining up in section 2, failed section 1, which was a major surprise. So maybe it's not all over for Mikel Jalabert just yet. If Toni Bou drops to a poorer tally than 22 marks, Mikel Jalabert will make it through to tonight's grand final. The grand favourite to make it through and join his perennial rival in the final, Adam Raga, would be Toni Bou. This step in section 2 has already been completed successfully by Mikel Jalabert. Can Toni Bou do the same? Crowd urging him on. Minder at the top of the section. And Bou is up, teetering on the brink. For a moment it looked as though he was going to fall backwards, but no such luck for his rivals as Toni Bou matches Mikel Jalabert, forcing his weight forward and through section 2 successfully. 6 marks from the opening 2 sections for Toni Bou. It wasn't a great start in section number 1, but he's recovered it somewhat in section 2, and if he can become the first rider clean here in section 3, Toni Bou will book his place in the final with 3 sections to spare. Nobody has been clean as yet in section 3. Adam Raga conceded a single mark. Fujinami and Bincaz 2, Busto and Jalabert each 3. So far so good for Bou though. Beautiful precision on the back wheel. This is the main step of the section. A couple of the riders drop marks for leaning here, but not Toni Bou. He's still clean, and that is enough for Toni Bou to book his place in the final. With sections 4, 5 and 6 still to come, who needs to do the other half of the lap if you're Toni Bou? Through to the grand final for the 3rd time this season. 6 marks from 3 for the Grand Master, the 11 times world champion. And now it's about exhibition riding. He's also got to think about getting the better of Adam Raga, who finished on 15. If Bou does manage to get the better of that total, he will have the advantageous 2nd starting position in the final. Beautiful on the back wheel there from Toni Bou. Flicks the front wheel down the other side to ensure that he doesn't suffer the same fate as Mikel Jalabert previously. And he's a 2nd rider clean through section number 4. And if he makes it through section 5 now, that will be enough to ensure that Toni Bou finishes the 2nd round of heats here in Toulouse as the highest seed and give him that advantageous 2nd starting position in the final. He's up the 1st step without dropping a mark. That's a good start. But remember, nobody has made it through section 5 as yet whatsoever. All 5 of the riders to tackle it so far have dropped to a 5-mark score. And it's on this landing that the riders have been struggling here tonight. No such problems for Toni Bou. Perfect on the landing. He hasn't dropped any marks so far, so he can afford to take a dab on the crest here if he needs to do so. Bidding to become the first rider to make it through section 5. He doesn't need to take a mark for leaning. And Toni Bou is the first rider through section 5, and he's the first rider through clean as well. Brilliant riding once again from Toni Bou, as he assures himself the top seeding position through to tonight's grand final with section 6 to spare. Now aiming to become the first rider clean through section 6. Adam Raga made it through with a single mark. He can't do it at the first attempt, Toni Bou. He jumps back down. He's going to have a second go. Is it worth him risking tiring himself out here on section number 6? Again, he jumps backwards. He doesn't need any specific result in this one, section 6. He's doing it for the crowd. He asks for their encouragement. He's had 2 goes at making it up this staircase to meet his minder at the top. This is his 3rd attempt. Takes a dab this time, makes the decision that that's the way he's going to get up. But he's dropped another mark for leaning, another 2 feet. It's a failure in the end in section 6. So only Adam Raga made it successfully through section 6. But it's both Raga and Bou who progress to tonight's grand final, separated by 4 marks in the end in the second round of heats here in Toulouse. Great work from Toni Bou. First rider to successfully complete section number 5. Very impressive indeed, and a great recovery from a failure in the opening section that you saw there. Reminder of the results of the second heat then. Toni Bou finishing on 11, Mikel Gelabert on 22 and Jaime Busto on 23. So Busto finishes in 6th. Takehisa Fujinami ahead of him on countback, also on 23. He takes 5th position. Mikel Gelabert takes 4th and Benoit Bincaz 3rd. The top 2 positions decided between the 2 heat winners, Adam Raga and Toni Bou. So the 3rd head-to-head final of the season, and the 2nd time that Adam Raga and Toni Bou have met in this stage. Raga the first out in the grand final for the first time this season. Section number 1. This a repeat of section 1 from the first lap, but with an additional step. Raga making his way towards that stage now. Section number 1 of this grand final, it's head-to-head, so Raga will take on section 1, then Toni Bou will take on the same section. A slight change in format compared to the heat stages, where it was 6 minutes to complete 6 sections consecutively. 5 sections in the grand final compared to 6 in the 2 previous finals this season. Adam Raga building up towards this step. He's dropped a single mark for leaning there. Having to stop on the sub. He's making a decision about his next move, and off the side of the section to a 5-mark score. He just got it wrong as he moved from the top of that step, and out he goes to a 5-mark score out of the course there. Now it's time for Toni Bou. An early opportunity to take the lead in this grand final. 9 times winner of the X-Trial Toulouse as a non-championship event, and winner of 12 of the last 13 X-Trials to have taken place in France. Nicely stopped on the front wheel there from Toni Bou, who balances on the top of the section, trying to avoid dropping any marks at all for leaning, remember. This step cost Adam Raga a single mark for leaning. Will Toni Bou be able to make it through clean? And will he indeed be able to complete section number 1 after Adam Raga's failure? Brilliantly stopped on the back wheel from Toni Bou, and over he goes. Amazing work from Toni Bou. Still clean in section number 1. Still good on time as well. 60 seconds, remember, to complete each of the sections in the final. But Toni Bou will make it through in 49 seconds, 11 seconds to spare, and clean in section 1 to take an immediate 5-mark advantage with 4 sections remaining. Now on to section 2, and this is where time starts to play a factor. Section 2 completed in both round 1 and round 2 configurations consecutively here. Must be completed within the 1-minute time allowance. Certainly the longest section of the night. The only advantage the riders have is that in the return direction, they don't need to take the drop to the section's lowest point. A single mark drop there for Adam Raga. That moves him on to 6th for the lap so far. Second step also seeing him concede a mark for leaning. Adam Raga, 4 times winner of the X-Trial Toulouse, most recently in 2015, makes it through the first half of section number 2. Problem for Raga here will be time, because he's used more than half of it doing the first half of the section. He's starting to rush now, but it's going to be very tight indeed. And at the moment, it doesn't look as though Adam Raga is going to make it through. Less than 10 seconds on the timer as he makes it up the step, but it's a failure in section number 2 for Adam Raga on time. He's going to make it to the end of this section by the looks of it. It would have been a couple of marks on observation, but 75 seconds he eventually makes it through in, and that is a failure. More than 60 seconds, and the section is incomplete. So Adam Raga on a maximum 10 marks from the 2 sections so far. Adam Raga at a severe disadvantage compared to Toni Bou, who is yet to drop a mark. What will be Bou's approach in this second section? Seeing Adam Raga fail by a 15-second margin, Bou's made the decision to rush in the early stages of section 2. He's dropped a mark on observation on the first step. He drops another on the second, as you can see from the onboard camera. Toni Bou continuing to press on here, and he's almost halfway through this section with 40 seconds still in his favour. Toni Bou in section number 2, making it in the second direction now with 2 marks dropped so far. Brilliant performance, showing real alacrity in the first half of the section, and now a more measured approach to the second. He's got just 1 more mark to play with, but he doesn't need it. He makes it through that step without conceding any further marks on observation. Now it's about making it on time. 52 seconds for Toni Bou. He's done it 8 seconds clear. 23 seconds faster than Adam Raga. That is incredible in section 2 from Toni Bou. Adam Raga on 10 marks, Toni Bou on just 2. And so far it's been a demolition of Adam Raga in this final. The 4 times world champion really struggling at this stage, and down to a 5-mark score right in the early stages of section 3. Well, that part of the section Raga had completed successfully previously in this evening's event, so I think it's all starting to unravel now for Adam Raga. Great sportsmanship being shown by Toni Bou, aiding Raga in wrestling the machine away from its trapped position in the section. But it's Toni Bou now on to section 3. 2 marks or better here for Bou will give him the X-Trial with 2 sections to spare. It'll be the first time this season we haven't gone down to the final section of the night. Bou is up where Raga failed. And now the more challenging part of this section. The only difference compared to the previous laps. The jump here and the step that cost several riders marks earlier on in the night has cost Bou a single mark there, but it will still be enough. Toni Bou wins his 10th consecutive X-Trial World Championship event, the 3rd of this 2018 campaign, to further extend his championship advantage this season. A new era of X-Trial competition, but a familiar name on top, as Toni Bou wins once again. Adam Raga heading into section number 4, but it's an immediate fail. The minder has to catch the front wheel. That step, the first part of a combination of section 5 from the opening lap and section 4 from the second round. And that step caught out several riders in the opening laps. Toni Bou's made it up though with no great difficulty, and he's now making it an emphatic advantage in this grand final. 17 marks ahead of Adam Raga as things stand, already guaranteed victory, and now just putting the icing on the cake here in Toulouse. His 10th victory in this city and his 14th X-Trial victory in France. Seen riders drop single marks on this part of the hazard earlier on in the evening. Toni Bou made it through this stage clean earlier on and does the same once again in exactly the same fashion. Superb in section 4, 45 seconds, Bou making it look easy. Raga failed on the opening step, and at the end of section 4, it's Raga on 20, Bou on 3. Now there might be some respite in section 5 here for Adam Raga, because he made it up these opening steps and was the only rider to do so in the second round. He does it again in the final. Adam Raga bidding to get through his first section of this grand final. He's failed all 4 of them so far. Adam Raga, undoubtedly one of the sport's all-time greats. He's been among the top 3 in the world rankings every year since 2002. Looks set to do so again this season. He's the only rider who seems to be able to stay close to Toni Bou, but he hasn't been close to him in the final here tonight. Adam Raga will complete section 5. Doesn't really need to rush. He's good on time. He's worked through with great alacrity. Strong in the steps at the start of this section where technical ability was needed, and Adam Raga has made it through nicely. So the 4 times world champion's evening at least ends on a high note. His first completed section on an historic evening for him, in which he registers his 100th career podium as an X-Trial World Championship rider. Section 5, Toni Bou. Well, he failed that staircase previously, but no such luck for his rivals this time around. Bou is straight up and maintaining his 17-mark advantage in this grand final. The points deficit doesn't mean too much in terms of this event. Bou will take 5 championship points over Adam Raga this evening to add to his pre-existing championship advantage. And Toni Bou so far has made it look like a cakewalk in 2018. 5-mark advantages in the first 2 grand finals of the year. This one has certainly been his most dominant performance of the 2018 campaign. Toni Bou making it through the gates at the top of the section. His minder looking on. Bou almost through. He's not in such a strong position as Adam Raga in terms of time. He's taken his time so far, and it's going to have to be a rush through the last step of this section as he makes it over back wheel first, sideways through. Toni Bou, 59 seconds, so very, very tight on time in the end. But he does make it through clean, and Toni Bou finishes the lap on 3, Adam Raga on 20. It's yet another X-Trial win for Toni Bou. So just 3 marks ultimately separating the 4 non-qualified riders in the second round of heats that decided Mikel Gelabert's progression to Strasbourg, but he missed out on a place on the podium by just 2 marks at the expense of Benoit Bincaz. Really incredible, it's magical for me, a dream that's become reality. A podium in the World Championship was a childhood dream, and now I'm here tonight. A great result, but it was far from a perfect race. I did make some mistakes, but anyway, this has given me a lot of confidence in myself and for the remainder of the championship, now that I've taken 3rd in the standings as well. I'm happy with this second position. The race was very difficult in all of the rounds, but particularly in the final, where the sections were very tough. Anyway, I'm happy with the result and how things went. I'm very happy. I really suffered physically on the first lap and the second as well to get to the final. My arms were right on the limit. But in the final, even though the sections were harder, with the sections one after the other, I was able to get back to my best riding. And I think this has been my best race so far this year. Benoit Bincaz becomes the first French X-Trial podium finisher since Bruno Camozzi in 2001, and in the process moves 3rd in the championship standings, with James Dable dropping back. 1985 Toulouse indoor trial winner Bernie Schreiber of the USA presents the trophies to Bincaz in 3rd, Raga in 2nd, and Toni Bou the winner on his return to the scene of his X-Trial debut some 13 years ago. will crash.
C'est parti.
Incredible through the gates at the top of the section there from Adam Raga. Mo have a go. He has a go. He's not going to make it up first time anyway.